Hi, everybody. It's Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now live on Zoom having a special free class for it's primarily as a wonderful free gift for members of one of my free Facebook groups, which is called Spiritual Empowerment Community. And I also did as an afterthought, I posted the details on my other Facebook group earlier today, Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. I've got those two free groups. Um, and so this is a free gift for all of you. There's actually a reason why I didn't just post the Zoom link all over social media. It's because I wanted there to be a little bit of a filter. I really only wanted people who were willing to jump through an extra hoop, who really want to be here, and not just some random person off of Facebook. I really wanted people who are in our community Facebook group or people who are willing to join it, right? So that's why I only posted the details on there. And actually, today we're talking about the power of spiritual discernment. But one of the things that's kind of a side topic is energy filters and um, creating filters around how people can access you. Because I think in today's day and age, there's a lot of harsh energies. We can be very intentional about what kinds of energies and people we want around us at any particular time. It doesn't mean that we don't love everyone. We can love everyone on the planet. We can also be very intentional about who we want here in this class. And so, on purpose, what I did was I set up basically what I call an energy filter, made it a little bit harder for people to get in here. And that's why. So if you were wondering, like, man, I wish you could have just put the link right there in the email or, right there in the public Facebook forum. That's why actually I did that on purpose. So right now we have the cream of the crop here with us, those who were really wanting to take that extra step to get here. And I appreciate each one of you. I'm really excited about today's class because this is actually going to be more of a discussion than a class. Now, um, I do teach a lot of classes, and some of you in this free class right now, I can see that are in my paid classes, and so I do a lot of instruction. And But that's actually not what we're going to be doing today. I've done a couple of other free Zoom classes. As I was doing those over the last few months, I was figuring out what actually works with this format. What I found was that when I had a lesson to teach and I wanted to take the time for sharing, class went like 3 hours. It was too long. It was just longer than it needed to be. So today we're going to have less of me talking and more of me just guiding the way, guiding a discussion. Okay. And just getting you thinking. And, we all have a lot of interesting ideas. There's a lot that we can learn from each other. And so, no matter the outcome, I really feel that this class is going to be helpful in different ways for every single person who is here. So, I'm really excited about the fact that there's going to be much more opportunity for sharing. That said, you might go ahead and um, grab a pen and paper or a journal. Even though I'm not going to be teaching a lesson, I do think you're going to have at least one aha moment. And if you don't write it down, you're going to forget it. So I want you to grab pen and paper right now. Okay? So as usual, I need to look at my notes and make sure that I am not forgetting anything. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what we're doing here today and logistics. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about who I am and what it is that I do. Um, this class is not about me, it's about you, it's about discussion. I don't know about you, but I think it's important to know a little bit about who you're being guided by so that you know. I mean, that's a part of discernment. Our topic today is about discernment. You should know, you should have some information about who the heck it is that you're learning from. I think too often we just see someone's offering a class and we just want to follow. So I am going to give you some information about myself and why I do what I do, because that's part of you developing your discernment. You need to have that information. And then we're going to have an opportunity for introductions. So we'll have a chance to talk about who you are, and um, and I'm going to give everybody a question to answer. So we'll start our discussion right there. And then we're going to go through several different discussion questions today. We'll go through as many as we have time for, and then um, so we're going to discuss for about an hour, and then we'll just cut it off wherever we're at. We'll just go ahead and end, and then we'll have a final question, and we'll finish that way. So, what it is that we're doing, I was actually uh, out at the state park outside of Tucson, meditating and staring at my favorite mountain, as I love to do. And I wasn't even planning on doing this free workshop, but it just came to me and I just started writing things down. And I wrote down the power of spiritual discernment. And I want you to already start thinking about, like, what the heck does that mean? Spiritual discernment. Okay. Um, and once we start going through the discussion topics, the discussion questions, you'll get a better idea of what I mean by spiritual discernment, but it might mean something different for you as well. Okay. So, what we're doing, lots of discussion questions. We already talked about privacy. So, this is being recorded right now, and you can choose to keep your camera on or off. If you need to, like, if you're busy doing something, it's better if your camera is off, because, which I know some of you have told me ahead of time, that's what's happening with you, and that's great. I would rather that you join than not join. If you're busy, then at least you can sort of listen in. So that's great. If you, just for future reference, if you are busy like eating or doing a bit or talking to people, it tends to distract the other students. So if that ever happens, you can just turn your camera off. And most of the time, you'll keep yourself muted. That way, if there's ever even something like shuffling of papers, can accidentally be really loud. And so we'll just keep yourself muted and take a moment, if you're not familiar with Zoom, to figure out where the unmute is on your menu. That way, when you're ready to talk, you can just unmute and you can just start talking. I'm pretty laid back on here. You don't have to have special permission to talk. Go ahead and keep yourself muted so that my ADD doesn't get thrown off track if there's a shuffling paper. Okay, so I'll give a little bit of information about who I am and what I do, and then we're going to get into giving you all a chance to introduce yourselves. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, my name's Maya Zahira. Right now, I'm based in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm just thrilled about that. I love that it's sunny here. I went and I really love working with sun energy and moon energy, but I've been working a lot with the sun lately, and that's Tucson is the right place to be. I lived in Kansas City for over 30 years. I don't know exactly, for a very long time, and was a spiritual teacher out there. And during the time when I was out there, I started to transition my work to do more online. So when I moved to Tucson, I just kept doing online work. And now some of you are in Tucson and have met me here as well. Um, so I want to give you a little nutshell about, for those of you who don't know me, about my expertise. Again, not because it's about me, but because it's really important for you to know who you're learning from. So, um, as I mentioned, I've been a spiritual teacher for many, many years. I started off, in the 1990s working with intuitive development and Reiki, even before it was popular like it is today. And that evolved over the years into like empowerment kinds of spiritual work, like retreats, empowerment retreats, um, and energy balancing sessions and workshops and things like that. And then in 2016, I went through a really intense experience. I won't go through that whole story, but I'm not trying to plug my book, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about the story. If you want to know the story, it's In Darkness Disguised as Light on Amazon by me, Maya Zahira. Um, I did go through a really intense experience in 2016. As a spiritual teacher, I went to a colleague thinking that I was going to just go to an energy session with a colleague that I thought that I trusted. And it turned out that that person was not working with the positive energies that they thought that they were working with. And I came under really major attack. Um, and I will emphasize, I was not somebody who was working with dark stuff. So there's a popular belief in New Age, which is like you only attract something if that's what you're resonating. Well, I wasn't, I mean, I was all love and light, fluffy, love and light, love and light. Like I wasn't attracting darkness because I was darkness. Um, and it was very unsettling. Oh, and Jessica says, if you haven't read it yet, it's a great book. Thank you, Jessica. Feel very grateful to have put that book out there, put that story out there. Anyway, long story short, that really catapulted me um, into a much deeper work than what I was doing before. And, you know, the soft love and light work is needed. We need to be able to have a practitioner we can go to that's just going to help us relieve our stress. And we'll do laying on of hands and help to balance our energies. Like we need those practitioners. But I like was put through a mega boot camp that took me to a work that was a lot more intense than that stuff. So that as so fast forward that led me to the work that I'm now doing today, which is primarily psychic protection, spiritual empowerment, and spiritual discernment. So I have worked with people who have been under major psychic attack. So like the really extreme stuff way over here on the spectrum, but also people over here on this end of the spectrum, people who are empaths and sensitives who are really having trouble managing their energy. And then people, anywhere along the spectrum, like all sorts of spiritual seekers who are trying to figure out how to discern the teachers and the energies that are out there. Because, for example, there's a lot of false light um, energies and teachers. So there's a lot of frauds out there. There's a lot of people who say that they're working with angels, for example, and instead they're doing black magic on their clients. Not to get into any freaky stuff here. I'm not intending to go down that whole rabbit hole. Just to give an example, that there's a lot of crazy stuff out there, and I've worked with clients who have been escaping from those kinds of things, and that's why I'm so passionate about teaching spiritual discernment so that you no longer have to depend on any guru or spiritual teacher or me, that you eventually won't have to depend on anybody. You can have such a fine tuned, intuitive radar, you'll be able to know what's genuine and what's not. Right. So, um, one final thing as I wrap up the information about me, is that if you'd like to work with me beyond this free class, there's more information about that on my website, which is www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. and click on Work with Maya, and you'll see there's different ways that you can work with me. So that's psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. Now, this workshop, this Zoom class discussion is offered freely. I have a personal rule for myself, how I live life, and it's that never offer something unless I really just feel joyful about it and really want to do it. So that's why I can genuinely say I'm happy that each one of you are here. No matter, maybe I might never see you again. I hope that I see you again, but even if I don't, I'll be happy that you were here today. I'll hope that you at least got some little tidbit. And I do hope that you will stay connected in the free Facebook group. I have a lot of free stuff. So if that's where you want to hang out like forever, I'm so cool with that. Or if you want to work with me, then I you know where to go. Okay. So let's do introductions now. So as we go around, I'll actually call out the names of what order we're going to go in. And I'd like for you to tell us where you're joining from. So if you want to say your name, you can. If you don't want to, that's okay. So let us know where you're joining from. And I want you to answer this question. So write it down. If you're a visual learner like I am, you probably want to write it down so that you can really think about it. The question is, what do you think of when you think of spiritual discernment? What do you think spiritual discernment is? What do you think of in regards to spiritual discernment? Okay, got it? By the way, if you were thinking that you were going to join a class, just be able to listen to a talking head, you're going to be disappointed because I'm going to make you all talk. But, well, no, I'm not going to make you. You have free will always. So if you want to pass, you can totally pass. It's totally fine. But everybody else, I'm going to make you talk. So the person at the top of my screen happens to be Kelly. So Kelly will be first, and then Jessica, and then Nora, and then Peggy Ann. Okay. So if you can unmute yourself when it's your turn, see that? Kelly, tell us whatever you want about where you're joining from, if you want to.
So my real name's Kelly. I'm on Facebook under the name of Joe, J-O. I'm a security freak, but I kind of give up on some of it.
Yeah.
I am speaking to you from Mazatlan, Mexico. I just moved here because I am leaving the United States for good after this last year. And when I think of spiritual discernment, I have had the very unhappy experience of working with several people who I think some of them knew, some of them were unaware that they were being used by dark forces. And it greatly affected me. I've had a lot of bad experiences since. So spiritual discernment, I really need to gain the skill of understanding, feeling the energy of somebody. As soon as I start working with them, I'm getting a little better at it, but I really have had a hard time with it. I've trusted people that I should not have in any way trusted. So that's what it means to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, Jessica, you are next.
Hi, I am Jessica Saldana, and I live in Texas, Ulen, a very small one-horse type of town. And I've always known about my gifts, but never really put it into use. And so it was a few years ago. The only darkest thing that I've ever came across was I was trying to go to sleep and I couldn't because I felt this, I don't know how you would call it, this like heavy feeling, like lying on top of me, but only it wasn't. And I looked up and it was two glowing red eyes. And it was just this ugliness that I've never felt in my entire life. Everything has always been like the best of every little situation. Um, and then once I was able to finally break free, like I've never experienced that ever again, ever. So I'm just like, and then my mom had passed away earlier this year, and ever since then, I've been seeing all of these good little things that I had seen all beforehand, and that I had to shut off because I could hear things, but I couldn't just describe what was what, and see and this and that. But I've never dealt with another evil something ever again. So I'm just trying to learn that protection from that ever happening again, if that makes any kind of sense. I'm sure it does to someone.
Yeah, it does. And when you have really good discernment, then you can know, like, soonest that you can know that something is off kilter, the sooner that you can take action and do something about it. And as I'm hearing you say, you have been discovering your spiritual gifts and now connecting with the spirit world. So it's even that much more important that you're able to discern, okay, is this something good? Is this something negative? Because there's a mix of stuff that's out there as we are developing our spiritual gifts and connecting with our loved ones on the other side. We want to make sure that what we're connecting with is
But good.
what we hope that it is. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Jessica. Nora is next.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Maya, for this discussion. I really appreciate it. So I myself am a practitioner, do lots of different healing modalities, and I also have been under massive spiritual attack for coming on about close to 4 years. So this is a very important topic to me. As far as for today, because I think this question will continue to grow and be discussed and so forth. I guess for me, it's I rarely call in anything to help assist me because I did that once and I got really fooled and I felt like an ass. So I just don't do it anymore because of that. I felt really duped. And so I felt like I can't trust anything. And plus for my clients, I don't want to do that. I did it at the beginning for a while and then felt like, well, why am I even doing this? I don't think it's really all that necessary. So there's that. So discernment in my case is holding as safe as space possible for myself and my clients when I am opening the portal to do energy work, because when you open the portal, it's open and anything can come through. And so lately what I've been doing when I have clients is say, well, the dark forces are always trying to infiltrate. You just that's a given. That's my experience. It's a given that they're trying. And so if they happen to get through, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to also take care of it. So we have an open dialogue about it because that's just what I do. So, and discernment is just spiritual discernment is using my own senses and believing in what I'm feeling and sensing as truth, and then acting upon it to clear the space to make it as safe as possible.
Yes, that was a really golden nugget right there. Right there. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks for being here, Nora. Okay, so we're going to do Tony, Jorge, Celine, and Peggy Ann, because I just realized all the boxes changed order on my screen. So that's the order that we're going to put in now. So Tony, you're next.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm in Tucson, Arizona as well, and I became involved with Maya and her work about 10 months ago, and because I had come under a psychic attack.
She's got one more person to talk, and then I'm supposed to, so we need to stop making noises then.
Okay.
We just have to eat.
Okay, Tony, go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, about 5 years ago, I became, got a problematic situation and had to start kind of figuring out, which is how I define discernment, kind of what I'm doing with regard to empathic skills and intuitive skills and protective skills, and trying to kind of delineate those into something that was a tool for me that I could use to help myself. So I feel for me, it's kind of multifaceted, and involves, those things, because I feel like I'm pretty intuitive, way too empathic. And then on top of that, I try to put discernment in there to make sense out of it all.
I love that you brought that up, because I want to really emphasize that we have a big spectrum of people in the class right now, because I know many of you. And so just to emphasize that we have some people in here who, really are not necessarily doing spiritual protection work with clients, like Nora was talking about what she does. But there are people who maybe are not practitioners, but are just really needing spiritual discernment because you're very sensitive to the energies around you. Like Tony is an empath. He can feel other people's stuff. So being able to discern what energies are other people's and what energies are hers, that's totally spiritual discernment as well. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you, Tony. Cool. Okay, Jorge, you are next. And we're going to unmute you. Let me click here, unmute.
My name is Jorge. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm beginning my spiritual journey. So I really need to be able to discern between feeling something negative and feeling something positive, because I haven't really followed what people have told me to do, only because I've been fearful. So I want to be able to choose the right path. And when I saw this, I was very excited, because I figured, you know what, this is what I really need to do, because then it'll allow me to open up a lot more and be able to really journey through this long process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just love everything that you just said, because, well, my first thought is I feel like a healthy sense of fear, or a healthy sense of caution, is actually a really good thing to have, Jorge, when you don't have all the information yet and you don't have the skills built. I encourage people to have that healthy sense of caution, because I kind of tend to see opposite in spiritual world, which is jump in head first into a whole bunch of stuff without even questioning it at all. And that's a real problem. So I love, I love the fact that that's where you're coming from, and recognizing that you want to go deeper with your spiritual gifts, but you need to have more skills so that you can discern what's what from your own inner guidance, and not from what someone else is telling you. Actually, I loved that you said that other people were advising you and you weren't listening to anything that they were saying. I'm a really independent person as well. So I just loved hearing that about you, that you didn't just do whatever anybody told you to do. Your goal is to figure it out for yourself. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay, well,
Thank you.
thanks so much for sharing, Jorge. Celine is next, and then Peggy Ann. Celine, I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Is it fixed?
Yep,
I
you're all-
apologize for the intrusion earlier.
It's
I'm on a
fine.
tablet and it's a little weird.
That's totally fine.
Okay. Well, I am Celine, and I'm on Facebook as Celine, as a spiritual writer. I have a thing I open up to the public in addition to my private page, and I'm here in Tucson. I'm a retired psychotherapist, and in the 80s, I started giving astrology readings and intuitive readings to people. So I've been involved with spirituality in a lot of ways, personally and with clients I had over the years. And now it's my turn. So spiritual discernment to me, after years of helping people discern for themselves, you know, I took for granted who I am and where I come from in my heart and in my level of understanding. And so I was just working with a client and didn't have to have too much concern about discernment for my own self. But now that I have time in my life to do some healing for my own self of situations that I've incurred over the years, psychic attack that I had that wasn't identified as that, meeting Maya as someone who really can be trusted and who knows what I'm talking about, like she was there. And it's really a very, it's humbling, and I feel really grateful to be working on my own issues at this point. And if I choose to work with other people or read other literature, it'll be really important not to just assume that they come from the same heart space as I do, but to know what I'm letting myself open up to.
Mhm. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Celine.
Sure.
We're going to do Peggy Ann next, and then April, Ann, Donna, and then Vandenberg. Hi, Peggy Ann. Where are you joining from?
Hi, I am in Wisconsin. I'm actually a Minnesotan, but I moved here 3 years ago. And I'm sitting here just processing a lot of stuff. I just assumed it was going to be a class, and I wanted to join so I could perhaps pick up new tips or tools, whatnot, because I know I don't know everything. And so, though I'm sitting here, and I have a history of when I was my family. First, I want to say my family of origin. Everyone has been sensitive to spirit. It was just normal. When I was 15, I got sucked into an occult. And so that was some hard lessons. And when I broke out of it, I was in fear for 2 years that they were going to find me. But life went on, and I being connected with spirit was just normal. In hindsight now, I can look back and say, wow, that was pretty cool, some stuff that happened. And I wish I understood or had the awareness so that I would have explored more. Then actually about 2006, I moved into an apartment building, and the whole building had portals throughout. And the apartment I lived in actually had like 6 major portals, and there was energy coming from different dimensions. And it was about my 3rd month in there that I started feeling and seeing things. And I lived in fear for a really long time. And there is a big battle going on. I would have been out of there if I had the means to, but I didn't. And I actually at one point got behind my cell phone camera to almost in a way hide. And I'm so grateful I did not see what I can now see in the videos and photos and everything. Anyways, after a professional team could not cleanse my apartment, I had to figure it out. And it got worse before it got better. And I did figure it out. And then down the road, I had a near-death experience where I went into the light, and I had conversation. I came back into my body. I was told things I needed to do, and it's been 6 years actually. I had serious, obviously life-threatening health issues, and so I've been recovering through holistic healthcare, and I am at a place, honestly, where after having been in the light where I was, discernment is easy for me. Until I am caught off guard and I experience something new. And it doesn't matter how, whatever I am around everything, when it's something new, I go into fear. So I wish there was an easy answer to how I can immediately discern, which is hard to do when I'm in fear.
I think we can all relate to that, whatever the circumstance, whether it's spiritual in nature or some other kind of situation, that when we're in fear, it's really hard to be tapped into your inner knowing. It's just hard.
And fortunately, the times it has happened, it was just some new higher frequency stuff I wasn't familiar with yet. So, but I am hoping to pick up, new tools or tips or anything, and I appreciate being here.
Yeah, well, we're glad that you're here too. And even though it's not a like nuts and bolts class, me teaching you a technique or anything like that, I really do firmly believe that everybody is going to get at least one aha moment, if not several, from just hearing everybody else talk. And even if it's not right, actually, I'm just getting this little download right now, which is that even if it doesn't happen, I think for some of you, it's going to happen right there, right during class. But for others of you, you're going to be pondering, be thinking over various things that we've talked about tonight in class over the next 3 days. And then some ideas are going to unfold for you. That's what I'm getting. So be open to however it's going to process for you. Thank you for sharing, Peggy Ann. And we're going to go to April. Hi, April, where are you joining from?
I am joining from Texas as well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
This is my first time ever. So I'm not really sure where to go with this, but hi, I'm April. I'm from Texas. I've known my whole life I had gifts. I just didn't know how to use them. I thought when I was little, I had like numerous imaginary friends. I could see things that weren't so nice. I could see people that weren't fully there all the time. Sometimes they come to me in full apparitions, and sometimes they didn't. I've always had a lot of clairvoyances. Didn't know what they were called for a long, long time. I would smell things that didn't exist. I would hear things that no one else heard. About 6 months ago, I really started trying to focus, and then about 3-4 months ago, it was like something just told me it's time to get it together. And I started meditating because I needed to find center. There was total chaos in my life with my children, who were all grown. But after I started just meditating and finding myself again, that was like the clue. And I'm a firm believer in the chakras and getting your energy all aligned. And it seems like I've met a few people on my walk so far that I think Jessica was in here with us once. She's on this Zoom class. I met her by doing a reading for her, and I told her she needed to go with what she's doing because she knows she's gifted. Something I learned that the more I stay centered on keeping me aligned, I can pick up on others when I interact with them on what they have going on. It's almost like a magnetic vibe that comes, and it's like I hear things being told to me in these vibes about this person I'm directly dealing with. But with discernment, for me, I had something traumatic happen with a very negative entity. I'll just, the negative of negative, at 9 years old. And something happened after that. All my stuff got shut down. But except for premonition dreams, I had them throughout my whole life. That never stopped. And then in my mid 20s, things just started coming back a little at a time. And here I am, mid 40s now, and it's almost like I can sense vibes before they happen. I literally can. It's just blowing my mind how much is being downloaded to me on a daily. Um, I literally told a friend of mine that I was video chatting with the other day, and this was the first ever, that I needed to let her go because I really felt the sense that someone was fixing to show up. I have a shop beside my home, and I expected to be some other friends of ours. And I didn't know they were coming, but I was getting this download that they were coming, and we were supposed to be going somewhere. So I went and told my husband that we were going to have to prolong our trip to going into town or something. I don't know. And he said, why? And I said, well, let me run to the restroom and then I'll tell you why. Well, when I come back out, they were here. And I had no idea they were going to be here. But my husband at first, when we first got married 17 years ago, he thought, okay, she's just a little wild. I love it, but now he's totally convinced if I say something's going to happen, he's like on point. He's with me. There's no denying. He'll tell everybody, if you don't believe my wife, that's fine, but I believe her 100%. So
You were right on the mark, April, when you said the more in alignment you are yourself, the more you're able to tune in to what's going on with other people's energies. Awesome.
And
Thank
I pick up
you.
bad vibes. I pick up, and when I feel something negative around me, I can literally sense it, see it, smell it.
Mm-hmm. And positive too, right? When there's positive, yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like a self-induced high when there's a lot of good positive vibes. It's like a natural high. It lifts you up so much. It's just awesome.
Thank you for sharing, April. Good to have you here.
Yes, finally.
So my screen totally rearranged again. So I'm just going to call off Anne, go next, and then Donna after that. Anne, unmute yourself, darling. Hi. Where are you joining us from?
Insanity.
Canada.
Yeah, I am. I'm from Edmonton, Canada. And I missed out on the question because something happened and I had to go and
so I'm gonna help move us along a little bit.
Okay.
So the question is, what do you think that spiritual discernment is? What is it for you?
Spiritual discernment. Oh man. Being able to understand what's happening. Being able to understand and discern. Kind of what's going on in the air around you. So in a silly way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, by the air around you, I hear you saying like even just your immediate environment.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like what's going on spiritually, what's going on energetically. Even if there's no spirits in the room, maybe you can sense that the energy is good, positive or negative, or that somebody had an argument recently, and you can discern between, okay, that's just walked into the energy of the room that feels weird. That's not my energy. Like being able to discern between
Yeah.
what's going on with you personally and what's going on in the air around you, as you put it, right?
Yeah, I've had several times when I've been several times here myself, but at other houses when I walked into them, and I've been hit, physically hit right here in the air.
So there was something going on energetically, right?
Yes.
You, and discernment is being able to know what that is as quickly as possible, to
And
know
that,
what to do about it.
yeah, yeah, and it's when I've been out and it's in the public and everything, it's like, okay, I know you don't want me here. I will leave because there's nothing I can do about it at that moment.
Exactly. And I'm gonna finish you up right there, just so we can keep things going,
Yep.
right? We'll have more share. We'll go around again and share. Thank you so much, Anne. We're gonna go on to Donna and then Marla. So Donna, where are you joining us from, and what is spiritual discernment to you? I tried to unmute you. Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
I'm joining from the Seattle, Washington area. And discernment to me, I'm an empath also, and I feel the energy of other people and the collective energy, which hits me kind of hard sometimes. And sometimes I forget. It doesn't immediately come to me, oh, this is probably not my energy, or I'm sensing others. I suffer with it for a while before it comes to me, oh, maybe that's what it is. And I'm getting a little bit better at that. Maybe a lot better, but than I was. But also, I want to be able to discern if there's non-beneficial energies in my house, and if entities are attaching to me, which I've gotten better at feeling that. And sometimes it still takes me a while. It's like, oh, I feel so awful. Oh, I need to check. Is there an entity on me?
Or as you mentioned, if it's an empath issue, which I know there's empaths in here, maybe it's somebody else's feelings that you're feeling. Like if suddenly you're not feeling well,
Yeah,
emotionally or
that's true.
physically.
Both of those.
It's not always entities. It can be like you're picking up on someone else's stuff, or as you also mentioned, the energy of the collective. I'm really tuned into the collective as well. So some days I'm like, oh God, I just feel terrible mentally, emotionally, because it's just like the noise is so loud, right? To be able to know that that's not yours is really helpful, right?
Yes, just knowing it kind of releases it. Just, oh, that's not mine, so you can let go of it.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Donna.
Yeah,
Okay, we're going to go on to Marla. Marla, go ahead and tell us where you're joining from, and then also what is spiritual discernment to you? Let's see if we can get you unmuted. There you go.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm from Wamego, Kansas, and spiritual discernment to me, I have a hard time phrasing things and putting it into words. I work with a lot of different people, and I feel a lot of their energies, and I think I would like to know more of like how to keep that from getting into my space, or at least taking it home with me, so to speak.
Yeah, I can think of times when I've gone to the grocery store and like either there was something weird going on spiritually there, or somebody that was working behind the counter, I think, was really depressed. And like, you don't want to take that home with you, right? Be able to figure out what's yours and what's not yours.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. And it's fun to hear that you're from Wamego. I lived in Manhattan, Kansas when I went to college, which is not that far from Wamego.
Cool.
Yeah. So cool.
Fun.
Small world. Okay, my screen keeps changing around. Let's see. So Vandenberg, do you want to share?
Yeah, I'd love to. My name's Jane, and I'm in Colorado. And Maya, I want to thank you for providing us with an hour of thinking about this because it's been really helpful for me. Pre-Maya, before I met you, I was in a progressive Christian context and participated in spiritual discernment processes for people who were considering going into the ministry. And it was an intentional process in a safe space about life transition where we grounded in prayer. Okay, so, and those words also are words that I think I've learned from you, Maya, in a whole different context. Because I'm an empath and clairaudient, and I also I met Maya because I wanted to discern, I wanted to deal with, I'm thinking about what Jorge said, I was fearful about my own gifts, and I didn't have the tools to discern what was going on, how to manage my boundaries. So that's a whole other level of spiritual discernment that Maya, you've been so helpful with, going past fear to be able to see what's me, what's my own stuff, what's other energies. You've been, also like sometimes it's just my own crap, right? It's just my own crap. It's not, it's not somebody else's energy. It's my own crap. I guess I said that enough.
But it's important I mean, we haven't brought that up yet, and it's really important that it's not always entities, it's not always someone else's stuff. Sometimes it's just our own, what a lot of people call shadow material, like all the unhealed junk that's stuffed in is seeping out, right? Sometimes that's what it is.
Yeah. So I'm in a life transition, and but it's just thank you for helping me remember myself.
Well, you're very welcome, and I'm grateful that you're here.
Thanks.
And a final thought on what we were just talking about is it is really important to be able to have the spiritual discernment to know, is this my own stuff coming up? Because if it is, but all that you've ever known or thought about is maybe empath stuff, picking up on other people's stuff or entity stuff, then you might end up misdirecting, right? Like you're focusing on like clearing, burning frankincense and clearing your house, when actually, if you had honed the discernment to be able to distinguish what's actually going on with you, you might realize, oh, it's actually my own stuff that's coming up, and you end up avoiding a really juicy opportunity to do some really deep personal inner healing. And that's just as important as learning how to clear out negative spiritual activity. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, thank you, Maya. And everybody else.
Yeah, Jessica, are you available?
I am. Oh, sorry, let me put my video on. So I'm Jessica, and I am, can you hear me okay?
Yes, great.
Okay. So, my video. Okay. So I am in Scottsdale, Arizona. And there are a lot of people here with a lot of gifts and all kinds of things going on. So I would say that I am very below average in that sense. I am just a real regular gal who happened to have a very uncomfortable experience that kind of changed the way that I look at everything. And for me, it kind of made me initially feel like the boogeyman was around every corner. And every time the wind would blow, it felt very like woo. And is it just the wind blowing, or is there something happening? And, so I was kind of directed and led to Maya, and she helped with my situation. And now for me, I think discernment is a lot about kind of standing in my own power and understanding while there is a lot going on, it's not all stuff to be scared of. It's about knowledge, that knowledge is power, and understanding myself and kind of this aspect of life that I hadn't really thought about much more. So
So wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Jessica.
yeah.
And you're in Mesa, Arizona? No, not Mesa. Where are you?
I'm in Scottsdale.
Scottsdale. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're just a couple of hours away. So it was really cool. We were able to meet last month.
Yeah.
And I'm now all of a sudden remembering the yummy treats that you brought me at the psychic fair. Okay, Tana, are you available? Do you want to share anything? Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, Tana.
Hey. Well, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and everybody's kind of just wrapped up how I feel about discernment. So I just kind of spiritual discernment to me it has a lot of different avenues, just like, for one, just discerning, is it me? Is it mine? Is it something else I'm picking up from some other person? Or could it even be, entities or something? And just being able to learn how to do that and get past the fear. That was my big holdup, and I've learned a lot with the spiritual discernment to get past fear, because that seems to just escalate the situation. So
Well, you're right. Like fear. So when Jorge was sharing, we were talking about, that healthy sense of fear, or that healthy sense of caution. That's really important to have that, rather than no discernment at all. But
right.
Tana, you're bringing up something else important, which is that if we get into like that constant fear and terror and like hypervigilism and all of that, then it does tend to attract more of the negative spiritual activity to us. And so we don't want to get into that, right? And as you were talking, I was remembering back to testimonial that you wrote for me like over a year ago, after you'd been in my spiritual empowerment academy for a while. And you talked about how you had spiritual gifts before. You were afraid, you became afraid, and so you shut them down.
Yeah.
And then you were learning to develop trust again. So it was really cool hearing you talk just now about where you are even now compared to then.
Right, because I had wonderful experiences, but then I had some really terrifying experiences, and I really thought I could I'll just not, I'm going to just make it go away and ignore it, and that's not really, you can't really do that.
Right.
I
Well,
couldn't.
as I often say, it's like, so if we try to totally shut our gifts down, then it's equivalent to trying to drive blindfolded.
Right, right. So
And so you're still driving no matter what. So you may as well be able to see,
right,
so that you can tell what's what.
yeah,
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing, Tana.
okay.
And Mira, you want to share anything today? Oh, and Amira just shared a comment. I'll go ahead and read. She says, hello, I'm joining from Northwestern Lower Michigan from my desktop, which has neither a camera or a microphone. Sorry, my real name is Mary. My belly dance name is Amira. Cool. How I understand spiritual discernment is, number one, knowing what is my, hang on just a second. Okay, number one, knowing what is my energy as opposed to what is someone else's energy. Yes, totally. Number two, knowing what is a message from a spirit guide, ancestor, angel, intuition, or if it's just me making something up. Oh yeah, that's a good point too. And I will add to that, or knowing if it's false light. There's a lot of that gets mixed in, right? Number 3, knowing if someone saying or doing, knowing if someone's saying, doing one thing, but I'm getting the intuitive feeling that they're actually really up to the opposite. Okay, I totally love that you brought that up. I really love using spiritual discernment for totally practical nuts and bolts life stuff too. Like I am immersed in the spiritual world all the time, not just because of my work, but because it just shows up in my world. But I'm a big believer in using our spiritual discernment, like for all sorts of things, like which car insurance company should I choose, and can I trust this person or not? Um, and trust, knowing who we can trust, that's a big one, and so important in today's day and age. So thank you for sharing that, and I love that it was all written out like super clear for all of us. And I think everybody joining live probably can see that comment, hopefully. And so then we also have Faraday and Ashley and someone who's joining from 520 area code. So let's see if Faraday Tracy is available. Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes. Hi. I'm relating the spiritual discernment to I guess you could call it an awakening I had several years ago. I had experiences all my life, but it wasn't until about 3 years ago, I basically, I mean, 24/7, I'm kind of connected. It's not like I had an experience. I just had this awakening, and there's always a group there. I don't know what else to say, but day and night. And so the thing is, I've had amazing experiences. I'm rarely fearful. There were a few times where some of the things that happened did cause me to be frightened. But for the most part, no, although they also do things that kind of irritate me, like on purpose. And so because I have like this pull between these amazing things and then these other things that I consider to be kind of negative, I'm trying to discern, since they refuse to tell me who they are after 3 years. And I just mean in general who they are.
So,
not like,
so do you mind if I interject here, Faraday?
oh, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm so glad that you're sharing this. This is a really great learning opportunity for everybody here. So Faraday, I hear you saying you've had a group of spiritual beings who've been in your world, right, in the last few years.
Yes.
And some of your experiences with them have been positive. There have been some that have been frustrating or annoying, and they also are not being totally clear about who they are. So let's use this as an exercise in spiritual discernment. There are certain red flags to look for with both people and with spiritual beings. And it really is very similar across the board, whether we're talking about people or spirits. So if there was someone contacting you, a person contacting you on Facebook or on email and sending you messages, and after 3 years, they still wouldn't tell you who they were, would you think that that was a red flag?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I'm gonna join tonight.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so I'm just kind of helping mirror back to you some of that thought process. So, and then I'll just tell you in a more point blank sort of way that, and I'll tell everybody that if there is a spiritual being that is doing anything mischievous or annoying or kind of sneaky, or if you try to question who they are and they get angry or defensive or like very egoic, like how dare you question who I am, or if they're being secretive, like all of those are red flags, surefire indicators that it is not a beneficial being or beings. In your case, it's a group of beings. This is actually way more common than people might realize. And so you're not the only one, Faraday. This is kind of why I even am teaching this topic, because it happens so much. And so for you, Faraday, and for everybody listening, if you ever have a situation where there's one or more spiritual beings who are you have determined are not beneficial, because you're seeing red flags, and what I would say is you want to apply all of the rules of having healthy boundaries, very strong healthy boundaries that you would have with a normal person. And so you'd have those boundaries in the spirit world, just like you would with normal people. And so that's where we have to also look at, and I'm not psychically reading you right now, Faraday, so this is not about you. Speaking generally, that we also have to look honestly at ourselves and recognize if we have good boundaries or if we tend to have poor boundaries, and then be gentle with ourselves and compassionate, because it takes time to learn how to really act with those strong, powerful boundaries. I say this as someone who used to have terrible boundaries 10 plus years ago, and that now I am at a point where if a person or a spiritual being shows up and there's possible red flags, I don't even have to be certain. Like if it's not telling me, if it's refusing to tell me who it is, I know on certain terms, I say, you've got to go. There's no exemption from this. You've got to go. Only those that are beneficial are allowed. And point blank, if it's a beneficial being, it's not going to be doing annoying things. It's not going to be secretive. It's going to be straightforward with you and honest and gentle. Okay. So,
Okay.
yeah. So that's a little bit of tough love for you, Faraday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah. So if that happens with anybody, then one basic thing to do is you verbally set whatever boundary that you're going to set. Doing it verbally is stronger than just thinking it. I want everybody here to understand you are so much more powerful than you realize you are. And I'm not just saying this, I'm saying this as somebody who's been through major spiritual warfare. And they, whatever you want to think they are, negative forces or mischievous spirits, whatever, fill in the blank, they would like for you to think that they are more powerful than you are, because then they can mess with you. They can take advantage of you. They can keep you in fear. They can keep you from feeling like you can set those boundaries. But when you know that it's all a mind game and that you actually are more powerful than they are, then you have no fear in standing up and saying in a very absolute way, if you are not love and light, you need to leave now. You don't even have to give that qualifier, because we already know, Faraday, they've already given plenty of red flags that they are mischievous spirits. And so you don't even have to say if you're not of love and light. You say, I choose to not work with you anymore. You need to leave. And I'm also going to say that back in 2016, when I went through the crazy experiences that I went through, I actually kicked out most of my spiritual team, my guides and my angels. I kept a few of them. There were a handful of them that were, not really the kind of energy that I wanted to work with. So it wasn't like they were evil. So it's not like they have to be evil in order for you to be allowed to kick them out. You're the boss of your energy. You can kick out anyone you want, even an angel. If you decide you don't want to work with them, you can kick them out. So anyway, I'm done on my soapbox. Thank you for listening, Faraday. So back to you, Faraday. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No, that's just the main reason I kind of tuned in. So.
Yep. Yep. All right. So if you have any other thoughts or you want to message me, feel free to. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I have done something with the Zoom. I must have hit a button where, because I'm on my phone now, it looks like I'm on a phone call. And the last time I exited out, I got disconnected. So I can't actually see the video. I don't know how to mute myself now.
Oh, I will go ahead and mute I'll go ahead and mute you. Okay.
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 I might just hang up and try to get back in though, so I can
Yeah,
see the
that's
video.
fine.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, sure. Kelly just brought up an important comment. Thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate it. She says, same thing does not apply to the jinn entities though, right? Okay, that's true. So there is a particular type of entity that's a mischievous shapeshifter kind of entity that's called a jinn. It's spelled either DJINN or JINN. I have a whole video all about it. It's kind of beyond what we're going to talk about here today. If you do come to find out that that's what you're dealing with, then setting those hard boundaries has an adverse effect with them. Most of the entities that you're going to run into, any kind of mischievous spirits, setting strong boundaries is going to be helpful. If you find that there's any kind of lashback for doing that, then contact me or somebody that you can trust who knows how to deal with that, because jinn entities, they respond very badly to setting hard boundaries. They will lash back really bad. So if you want to know about that, if you suspect that it's if it's like a shapeshifter kind of entity, then you can go to my YouTube channel. I have a ton of free classes where I do teach, where it's not discussion like this, but it's like teaching lots of different topics about spirituality and psychic self-defense. And the channel is called Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And it's a fairly recent video. It's called Vengeful Jinn, EJINN is the recent video on that topic. I appreciate you bringing that up, Kelly. Okay, we have Ashley. Did you want to share anything, Ashley? She's silent today. Okay. Well, if you decide you want to share anything, then you can share it in the text box. And also phone number 520-244, etc. Did you want to, do you know how to, I'm gonna let's see if we can unmute you. Okay. And by the way, it's always totally fine if you're just wanting to listen in and you're feeling shy, that's totally fine. No worries at all. Jessica Saldana is sharing, happened with me last night. I had a feeling of something off kilter inside of my living room and kitchen. I had stated out loud that if you are not good, pure, and light, you need to leave. I do not want anything dark in my house. Shortly afterwards, I did not feel any negative vibes or vices in my house. Yes, that's a really good go-to statement. Come up with some statement like that or similar. And I actually used that myself a couple of days ago when I had a really brief encounter with something. And I realized, oh, this is not something positive. Like at first I thought it was positive and I got a weird feeling. And so I immediately made that statement of boundary, and then it left. And so that's a really good go-to. Okay. And I think I'll go ahead and share some of my thoughts on spiritual discernment. I miss anybody? We get everybody share, by the way. I think we did. Okay. So I've already shared with you guys that I love using spiritual discernment for practical purposes, like maybe TMI. A couple of months ago, I went on a couple of dates with somebody, and I had a weird feeling, and it was like something is off, right? I couldn't tell at first what it was, because I had, my own emotions mixed in with it. So I chose to move forward really, really slowly, give myself a chance to get really clear and centered, to to get really clear in my discernment. And once I got really, really clear, I realized what was really off, and I won't go into it. It was like, okay, this is not someone I'm going to go out with again. Um, but me 15, 20 years ago, I would have just jumped right in. And then I would have found out like 2 months later that I was in a horrible situation. And how many of us can think of times when that happened, whether it was with dating or a marriage or a business relationship or friendship or whatever. And actually, speaking of that, as I mentioned, I moved to Tucson a year ago. And so I have been really practicing using my spiritual discernment as I am meeting new people, like new friends, new business connection colleagues, new people that I think might become good friends. And so going through my own discernment process, which I've also taught my students in my Spiritual Empowerment Academy, exactly what to do to tune in, how to discern who can be trusted in your personal life. And then I also use spiritual discernment with spiritual content. I'll call it spiritual content. Like I'm still I might be a spiritual teacher, but I'm also lifelong seeker. So I listen to audiobooks, I watch YouTube videos, I click on things on Facebook and watch things. I'm constantly tuning in to discern, is this beneficial for me on where my path is right now? Is it true information? Is it false spiritual information? Because there's a lot of false, there's a, there's a lot of intentionally false spiritual information that's being really implanted into society in order to just keep people chasing their tails. And so that's another thing that as I was developing my own spiritual discernment process with my own studies, I came up with some methods to teach my students in my online academy for exactly how to test, how to check on your spiritual teachers, see if they're true, or there's a lot of predators out there. There's a lot of predatory teachers. How to check your spirit guides, if they're false light, or if they're actually genuine. So I use spiritual discernment all the time, like it's just like every day, multiple times a day, with everything from mundane stuff to spiritual material to actually engaging with entities. If I encounter something, trying to discern exactly what it is and where it's from. I also do private sessions with people. So when I'm doing sessions, I want to be able to discern, okay, this person is telling me about their spirit guide, and they're asking me to help them tune in. And now the very first thing that I'm doing is double checking and making sure that it's actually a beneficial guide and not some mischievous entity, because I've seen a lot of that. So I use it all the time, and I'm just gaga over spiritual discernment. So I'm going to just mention, I'm going to take a minute or two and talk about something, and then I'm going to go through a list of topics with you all. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So at the beginning of this class, I mentioned if you wanted to work with me more, I gave a website and some other avenues. I'm going to go over some information right now in case you missed that at the beginning, and I'm going to explain a little bit differently now as well. So obviously, since this is a free class and the emphasis is on giving everybody an opportunity for sharing, it's really impossible unless we had a 5-hour class, which I did one time actually last summer. um, I think it was 5 hours actually. Because of that, obviously, it's impossible for us to go really deep into coaching anybody, helping anybody through a particular process. So I want to let you know, first of all, about some free content that you can access if you want more. You want to go deeper, and some of this is going to be repeat. Some of this is going to be different. So the first thing is there's like over 100 hours of free classes on my YouTube channel. So if you're not familiar with that yet, write it down right now. YouTube.com, the channel is Psychic Protection Sanctuary. Literally, there's like, there's over 100 hours of free stuff on there. And you could literally go on there and just binge watch and binge listen on all sorts of topics, a lot of content on psychic protection, but also some content on developing your spiritual gifts. And I have it broken up into 2 different playlists. If you want to avoid the scary stuff and you can just listen to the spiritual gift stuff, you can totally do that. And I totally honor if that's what you want to do. So that is one avenue for tons of free content. Other area is the Facebook groups. And there's 2 Facebook groups that are free. And I continue to have 2 Facebook groups, these 2 free groups intentionally, even though a lot of people will only have 1 free group. I have 2. I keep them separate because I really honor and respect that not everybody needs or wants to go into the really freaky, scary stuff of spiritual warfare. That's not where everybody's at. And I really honor that. So the first group is Spiritual Empowerment Community Facebook group, Spiritual Empowerment Community. And that's a much softer group. It's more about empowerment, living your most empowered life, developing your spiritual gifts. We don't really talk about spiritual warfare kinds of topics in there. It's more of an uplifting kind of group. So I invite you to join that. Remember, I talked at the beginning about energy filters. The only people that I let join that group are people who answer all 3 questions. If you don't answer all 3 questions, click on decline, because if you don't really want to join that bad that you can't take 5 seconds to answer the questions, then you don't deserve to be in the group. I know that sounds harsh, but that's an example of energy filters. So if you do want to join that, you've got to answer the questions. And then the second group, which is more intense, and we speak freely about spiritual warfare and even some of the scary topics. That is the Facebook group Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And the same thing applies. There's 3 questions to answer. My kitty is trying to climb on the computer, baby. And both of those are free groups, and there's free stuff in there. And you can even post questions if you're struggling with a situation. Post a question on there, and you can get free tips from everybody in the group. And usually, I'll get on there and answer questions as well. So that's a great way to get some free support. And then the other thing is my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. I want to direct you to a particular, oh my goodness. Everybody meet the cat who's being naughty. Hi, you got to get out now. She keeps trying to climb all over the wires. She wants attention. So I want to bring your attention on the website to the 12-month Spiritual Empowerment Academy. Again, I have energy filters for that academy. I only want people who are the right fit for that group. And in that online academy, that's where I teach you all the tools for how to discern and what to do if you've got a spiritual issue going on. And we go into all of that. Actually, some of the topics and questions that I'm going to read off to you next, we actually learn how to do all of that in the group. So if you feel drawn to that, you can find that information on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And And then under the events tab, you'll see Spiritual Empowerment Academy. That's one of the ways that you can work with me. Okay. There is an application process. So I don't you can't just click and join. You have to really want to join. You have to fill out an application and really think about it. And then if you feel drawn, then we'll take the next step. Before we get into this list of questions that I'm going to go over with you guys, Kelly, Tony, Anna, or Jessica, or Tana, do any of you want to share anything that comes to your heart about if you were telling a friend about your experience in Spiritual Empowerment Academy? I'm going to click on you, Donna. If you don't want to say anything, you don't have to. I can see you thinking. I can see your face. I can see you thinking. So yeah. So don't worry about the group. If you were just telling a friend, like, oh, I'm working you in this group, and this is how it's helped me.
Oh, it's helped in a lot of different ways. Setting boundaries is one big one. I didn't even set boundaries before. And I've also learned, what we were talking about, discernment and how to protect myself against non-beneficial energies, the protocol. That's a major one for me. That has helped me so much. Close the portal, close the, what was that? The round, whatever that is. What do you call it again? The round portal. The other one is round. What's that one?
Oh, the vortex.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those two.
She's had issues with those in her house, so we had to learn how to deal with those.
You've helped me a lot.
Aww.
In so many more ways. I can't even list all of them. Things are totally different for me. They're so much better.
And it's wonderful working with you, Donna. Now, and thank you for sharing. For time's sake, I will just say, I just had an idea pop in, and it's that if any of the rest of you whose names I called, if there's anything that you wanted to share, feel free to type in to the text, I forget what it's called. You can type something in if you feel like it, because I'm going to go on just because of time. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of class, we've done a few of these free classes, and each time I'm tweaking it more and figuring out how long things are taking. And when we do a lot of sharing, it does take a lot of time, but that sharing is really important. So as we're going, I'm kind of adjusting my plan accordingly. I didn't want to keep anyone from sharing in that first segment. We all needed to share. And Kelly, her feedback about the Spiritual Empowerment Academy is that learning, I'm going to kind of recap a little bit, that learning to discern what was really happening with her spiritually, with the really unusual spiritual situation that she was going through. And give me a thumbs up if you think this is correct. Like having validation that you're not crazy, that this is actually real. Okay, yeah. Because they don't know all the story, but you and I do. Peggy Ann is saying, I need to get going. Thank you so much. And hey, sorry, I just realized that was sent privately. Sorry, Peggy Ann. The replay is available. The replay will be available. So we're going to go over a little bit of information right now. We're done with that blurb. We're going to go over some info. So here's some questions, or here's some things that I want you to think about in terms of spiritual discernment. And because we've done a lot of sharing, I want you to get your pen ready and jot down. You may not have time to write down every single one of these, but you can also refer back to the Facebook event, because all of these are listed out. If you did see the Facebook event, all of these are listed out in the details. Or if you got the email, all of these are listed out. So when you have strong spiritual discernment, you will be able to, the first thing on my list is tell if your spirit guides guardians, angels, etc., are genuine or false light. And the reason why that's first on my list, and the reason why, let's see if she's still here. The reason why Nora mentioned earlier that at this time she's choosing, well, and I hope I'm speaking correctly. You can correct me if I'm incorrect on this, Nora. But I'm assuming the reason why you were saying that you no longer call in guides and helpers really is because the false light is so prevalent right now. There's so much stuff out there that isn't what it says that it is. That when you call on, when you think you have a spirit guide or you call on a helper, a spiritual being to help, and something bad shows up, and it's so frustrating. But what if your spiritual discernment was so honed and tuned in that you could feel safe and confident calling on some spiritual assistance if you decided to, because your discernment is so honed and clean that you can tell right away if it's good, bad, or otherwise. Yeah. So that instead of having to avoid it altogether, you can still get help. I'll just speak for myself. To me, the reason why that's so important is because I think it's really hard navigating life. And as someone who works in the field of spiritual protection, having to do clearings all by myself without any spiritual assistance. I mean, I believe I'm powerful. I believe each one of us are powerful, but it is damn hard work. And so I'm really grateful to have really honed that skill so much that, yes, I had a period where I kicked all of them out. I didn't work with anybody. And then for a while, I had a small, like very few beings that I would work with, only a few. And then the more that I honed that skill, the more that I was able to choose to work with more beings and have more support. There's actually a story that I'm going to be telling. There's not time to share it here in this class, but those of you who are in Spiritual Empowerment Academy, I'm going to be sharing a story tomorrow night about how I did recently call on some help, and I had been experiencing extra amounts of spiritual warfare because of the work that I do. I was being extra targeted, like really on the shit list of the dark forces, is how I like to say it. And I really feel like I'm onto something now because I basically put in a request of all this extra protection, and it's a little complicated to tell without sharing the whole story. That has required calling on extra like bouncers, spiritual bouncers, to help me, which imagine if you have to be hyper vigilant all the time, be able to tell what's coming at you. To me, that's exhausting. So that's what I really appreciate about discernment, is being able to tell if my helpers, guardians, guides, etc., are genuine or false light. That said, I want to emphasize, I totally get it. There's people, I have friends and colleagues and other people that I watch on YouTube videos who are choosing to not work with any beings, at least at this particular time, and I totally understand why. I'm gonna, so before I go on to the next thing on the list, I'm gonna read Jessica's comment. And she says, this is Jessica Donaldson, the Spiritual Empowerment Academy has been really great. We cover a lot of different information, and I have learned so much, obviously from Maya, but also from the other students. And I wanna also say, Jessica, also from yourself. Yes. It's a great place to expand and explore. Maya is a wealth of knowledge, has also been super helpful in the more normal day-to-day aspects of my life. I've learned a lot about myself and helped to heal traumas I didn't initially know I had. It is something I look forward to every week. That's awesome. And Nora, I see your comment. She's saying that is correct. Yeah, okay. So number 2, next thing on the list to consider, when you have strong spiritual discernment, you'll be able to determine if a spiritual mentor is right for you, if they are genuine, or if they're predatory or working with dark energy. And I can't even emphasize how important that is. I say this as somebody who has worked with numerous clients who have thought that they were working, who have thought that they were going to be working with an angel healer or a beneficial shaman, or some other person who put forth a really positive persona into the world, and had a huge following, perhaps because they were so convincing. But then it came to pass that they found out that, oh my gosh, this person is like working with black magic, or they're doing all sorts of intentional harmful things, or they're a sexual predator. There's that too. There's all sorts of crazy things in the spiritual world. It's think people let their guard down because they think, well, in the spiritual world, I mean, I'm going to this like event at a spiritual center, and so we let our guard down because it feels very lovely and we think that it's a safe space. But I just want to give you the hard truth, and it is that places like that and psychic fairs too are often hotbeds for predatory entities and predatory people, because they know that everybody's letting their guard down. So imagine if you had like the best discernment possible, that as you're deciding if you want to work with a mentor or not, number 1, is this person right for me? Like if you had the tools to be able to tell that without having someone else determine it for you, without without having to hire a psychic reader to tell you, right? If you could determine it yourself. So whether they're right for you or not, or the other extreme, like maybe they're not right for you because they're an outright predator. Okay. So jot down any ideas that you have about that. So next one, when you have strong spiritual discernment, you will be able to distinguish between spiritual teachings that are helpful versus those that are harmful for you. Now, there might be teachings that are helpful for someone else and not for you, or they might be like outright harmful, period. And maybe some of you are thinking back to situations in your life where you got sucked into a group or some teachings, and you just didn't know what you didn't know. You just didn't realize at the time how harmful it was. But now you can do something. Now you can develop those discernment skills, develop your intuition, develop all of your spidey senses, as I call them, so that you can figure things out before they even get started. Okay. Next thing on the list is that you can understand when your intuitive instincts are on target and when they are not. Because how many times have you been trying to tune in intuitively? Like, okay, what should I do here? Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this the right person for me? Is this the right situation for me? But because you have so much emotions or fear tied up into it, it's really hard for you to see the answer, right? And honestly, that is where I come in a lot of times with my students and my clients, is when they're in that state. I mean, it really is impossible to get a clear answer when you're really in fear. And just telling yourself to get out of fear is easier said than done. So sometimes you do need to have a trusted person that you can bounce things off of and to help you get that clarity. I see Kelly nodding, going, yep, yep, yep. But that said, the stronger your discernment is, the stronger your intuitive skills are, the more you'll be able to get recentered, even if you go into fear, right? That muscle will be stronger. Okay, here's an interesting one that we haven't really brought up specifically. When you have strong spiritual discernment, you'll be able to know the difference between these two experiences, between genuine, grounded, spiritual wholeness versus spiritual blissed out states are actually false light. And the spiritual bliss is super popular right now. And a lot of people who don't know think that that's a positive experience. If they go to a guru and their kundalini gets blasted wide open by the guru who's turns out to be a predator. I'm not saying that all gurus are, but I'm just saying in this made up story based on a lot of clients that I've worked with, that let's say you go to a guru, they touch you or they stare at you, they open up your kundalini, your sexual energy, your energy blasts open and you're in like total blissed out state. And you think that that means that you've had this like positive spiritual awakening. Well, no, you've become totally ungrounded and that other person is in charge. So when you're truly in discernment, you will be able to know actually before that even happens. You'll have the spidey sense to know that something is not right about that spiritual event or about that teacher. And Kelly says huge and can be totally misleading. Yeah. Okay, here's another one. So when you have strong spiritual discernment, you'll be able to trust your own spiritual path rather than depending on a guru or a spiritual master. Think about it. This is my observation from from my vantage point. When I see people out in the spiritual world, like genuine, honest spiritual seekers, like many of you, like when I go to a psychic fair, I see many honest, genuine spiritual seekers. The tendency that I see is, people are scared. It's scary living on this planet. It's hard living on this planet. So people want to find someone to latch onto who can just give them the answers and help them feel less scared. And I say this with compassion because I totally get it. But the thing is that's not a place of power for you. The place of power is for you to grow into such strength in your intuition and your discernment that you don't have to go to a guru for answers. You don't have to go to a spiritual master or a psychic reader all the time for answers. And yes, it's true. I do some psychic fairs and I do psychic readings for people. And I do psychic readings. I do readings within the Spiritual Empowerment Academy. But the whole, at least for me, as I'm doing that work, my whole focus is that like I am helping people, like I'm basically telling you what you already know as you are in the process of learning how to trust yourself finally. And so when you get those validations, when you have a psychic reading from someone and you get a validation like, oh, I already knew that, and now Maya or this other person is telling me this, that helps you trust yourself more. So the idea is you don't have to depend on that guru or that psychic reader anymore as you are learning to develop your own trust in yourself. And okay, so those were actually some thoughts that I wrote down as I was preparing for this class, as I was getting the clarity that I wanted to have a group discussion about all of this. And we didn't have the opportunity to go through and have random discussions about all of those various topics, but I do want to do a closing question based on everything that we've talked about tonight. The list that I just went over and all the things that everybody shared about at the beginning. Here's my question for you. And it is, where do you want to develop better spiritual discernment? Where do you want to develop better spiritual discernment? I want you to write that down. I want you to think about it for a minute. And just to really be time conscious, I want you to actually really be clear with what your idea is. I want you to write it down as a sentence. And then when it's your time to share, I want you to read that sentence. Okay. And I think we should be finishing by about the top of the hour. I'll give you about 30 seconds to give your idea. I'm going to write mine down right now as well. Okay, let's go ahead and share. And I don't always share in the mix, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll start. And Mira, thanks for joining. Oh, and the question again was, where do you want to develop better spiritual discernment? In what way do you feel like you need to develop better spiritual discernment? Yeah, bye, Nora. She's already gone. Okay. So mine is, I want to develop better discernment of exactly what is actually happening during an emergency situation, because I've had a tendency to panic and go out of discernment. And so my practice is going to be to stay grounded and in my natural discernment. Okay, so that's mine. Definitely need to work on that. So thanks for everybody who is staying till the end. We'll just finish up real quick. We'll do Kelly and then Jessica, Tony, and Ann. Kelly?
I kind of want to state it as an intention. I want to grow into my own strength of being able to trust myself and my own spiritual path. I lack trust in just about everything and everyone. So where that starts is myself.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, Jessica.
Well, for me, I do want to continue to stay grounded and to be able to open myself up with my gifts and receive the light and be that one that helps.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
It's
Thank you.
short answer.
Yes, yes, it's going to be short for everybody. Thank you. Tony.
Hi, mine's very similar to the first two. I wanted to, in a conflict or a situation that didn't feel right, I want to be able to trust myself and use whatever skill I have, in the moment rather than when it's too late.
Thank you, Tony. We're going to do Anne and then Donna and then April. Anne? Can you unmute?
You're talking to me.
No, I was talking to Anne, but I was just working ahead a little bit.
Oh,
Anne?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Donna, because Anne's still trying to unmute.
Oh,
Donna?
okay. I'm hearing all these things resonate with me. And I was going to say one thing and then another one popped in even more, which can I remember what it was? My first one was that I wanted to discern better who my genuine guides and angels are and the helpful beings. Because I have a fear of those, dark energies.
Yeah.
Entities, whatever they are. So.
That's a very good goal to have. Anne?
Well, because I'm so anxious to be helping everybody and everything, I want to be better at discerning and making sure that I'm not stepping into the wrong places. That I'm not putting myself in the wrong place. In my desire to kind of help and save the world.
That's an excellent one. Thank you, Anne. Thanks. We're going to go on to April and then Marla and then Celine.
Hello. Okay, so for me, just strengthening my discernment where my vibes are, and when I'm in spirit with my guides and angels, and just knowing that what I'm getting is true. I've already experienced a couple of times of things coming through that were presenting themselves as someone that someone knew, and they knew none of them, and that was kind of like offsetting, and I'm like, okay, I just need to learn more discernment. So I don't want to help people in the wrong way. I feel like I'm being led and guided that I'm supposed to be a light for some others, and I'm supposed to help them find clarity. And to do that, you have to do it right, because you don't want to instill the wrong threads in their life that would invade in their happiness and their healing. So for me, it's just learning to be grounded and knowing the right vibes from the wrong vibes, and knowing what is positive and light and love.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, April. Excellent.
You're welcome.
Marla and then Celine.
I would like to be able to trust myself more, and in trusting myself more, be able to help people better.
Yeah. Thank you, Marla. Celine? If you're still there? She might have gone. Okay, Tana, are you around? And we're going to do Faraday next.
Yeah, mine's short, but
Okay.
it's the same. I want to trust myself more with, when I do pick up something. I want to trust my initial instinct. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Tana. And Faraday, did you want to share anything? Okay.
Yeah, I think, just what I was talking about before with trying to discern, whether they're positive or negative energies, and to trust myself.
Yeah. And yes, exactly. And to trust your power, right? Trust your power as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. This was wonderful sharing, everybody. Thank you to everybody who stayed till the end. And those, I totally get it. Some of you needed to leave. That's totally fine. Shout out to those of you watching the replay. I appreciate all of you as well. We've got another question or something. Oh, Kelly says, thank you, Maya, and everyone else. You are so welcome. I'll just give a little tidbit here at the end that just remember all of the free resources that I already went over. The YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary, tons and tons of free stuff on there. And that if you do want to work with me in a group format or in another way, go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and take a look at the Spiritual Empowerment Academy or some of the other offerings, and just listen to your inner discernment, listen to your inner guidance, notice what you feel drawn to, and honor that, right? So if you feel really drawn to pursue something with me, listen to that. If you feel like you're not supposed to, I want you to listen to that too, and find whoever is right for you. Because if you think you all already know this, that whatever your experiences have been in the past with spiritual teachers or any kind of mentors, that when you have listened to your inner guidance as to who was the right fit, you ended up having a much better experience and you learned a lot more. Whereas if you kind of just started working with someone because either you just didn't really think about it, or maybe you second guessed your judgment, like, oh, I thought this wasn't the right person for me, but then I decided to change my mind, and you ended up working with them, and then later it didn't. I see Kelly nodding, yeah. And then later it just really, you realize, oh, that was a big mistake. So I'm a big advocate for, even if the teacher isn't a predator, just being able to tap into your inner discernment as to whether they're the right match for you or not. And if you feel that match, if you feel that magic or whatever you want to call it, then you're going to have that connection, right? Then you're going to have much more growth process. You're going to have a much deeper growth process with that person. So I hope you'll take that nugget with you as you move forward in life. Engaging with various different teachers or mentors in any capacity in your future. So once again, thank you everybody for joining. This was a pleasure. Right now, I've been rethinking how I want to do the free stuff, free classes in the spiritual empowerment community. For quite a long time, I was doing a monthly Facebook Live in there. And I just wasn't feeling that anymore. So like I said at the beginning, I have a personal rule that I only offer something if I feel really aligned with it. And so lately I've been leaning more towards this, where I'm going to change my words. I'm not aligned with doing this free class every month. I'm very aligned with doing it once a quarter, every 3 months. So that's where I'm feeling lately. So just make sure that you're on my email list. If you go to my website, you can sign up for my email list. You'll get an announcement when the next free one is going to happen. Or if you're active on the Spiritual Empowerment Community Facebook group, you'll see announcements whenever that's going to happen again. Okay. So in a couple of months, we'll have another one of these. I don't know what the topic will be. It'll come to me when I'm staring at the mountain again, which is what usually happens. Anybody who wants to unmute yourself, if there's anything you want to say, or just a group goodbye, group hug. Thanks everybody for being here. Bye.
Thank you, Maya.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
COVID-friendly hugs.
Yes.
Bye,
All right.
everybody. It was
Good
nice
night.
to see you all.
And you can email me or message me. You can email me on my website or message me if you have any questions. If you feel like there's something left unresolved from our class tonight, reach out. I'm in the office for a couple more hours tonight because I'm a night owl. So if you need anything, just let me know. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank
Lots
you.
of love.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.